Okay, this is going to sound crazy. This is going to be crazy to a lot of people. That's fine. But I can't even get over this. Sometimes I think like, oh, there's nothing else that could shock me. There's no way. Nothing will shock me. This shocked me. I'm literally shocked. So, and this is like, I just got a piece of the puzzle, just, I don't know, earlier this morning, just now, finished it. But it took me a long time because I had to keep talking about it the whole time. So now I got to go and do the recap here. But this is something that had, it affected me my whole adolescence. I think I found about this story before I ever even knew about music. Like I hadn't even started buying albums at this point. And I have no idea. Maybe my mom would be like, okay, pick a book. Or it was probably the library, because that's where you would go get books all the time. So you would just get books all the time and read. But and this must have been in a phase of my life when I was trying to understand all about the fears and what's out there to get me. Because it was during this period, is like when I read The Exorcist, which I couldn't even finish. That was so scary. But I read Helter Skelter. And and I was a young girl, and these were like an age that was a few years up, like my friends' older sisters and stuff like that. And so there was a certain way I was looking at all these kinds of girls. And when I read that book, Helter Skelter, it really impacted me. And I in so many ways. And I paid attention to that story forever, especially as I grew older and I learned more about the significance of it. And it kind of was like, the 60s were about peace, love, and Charles Manson, and so this documentary popped up, and it was Rob Zombie. And it was, I guess, Rob Zombie got the opportunity to talk to Charles Manson. Of course, Rob Zombie's a movie maker, so he made a documentary, and he goes and talks to a lot of people, gets a lot of information, and it's really, really good. And you can go onto it and watch it. I just saw it this morning. I didn't know. I guess it was released in 2017, but somebody had just posted it this year, and it just popped up. I just saw it. And so I watched it, and I had no idea what to expect. Especially Rob Zombie, no offense, but I can't watch his movies. I've seen a lot of them, but I've really gotten to the point I cannot watch bodies be tore up. It does something inside of me. It makes my body start hurting. I don't know, maybe all bodies are connected, but I don't know, but I can't. But I think, he makes some stuff that's scary, that's for sure. I've seen his movies. But anyway, so I didn't know what to expect with this documentary. And so he does a lot of talking with Charles Manson and stuff. And so anyways, I'm going to be like all over the place because this affected so much of my life. And then to see this and get this other perspective, plus throughout all the years that I have paid attention and putting all of those pieces together, this piece just made I don't know, made the whole, it took a big piece of the puzzle of life, let's say. So I don't even know where to start with this, but so definitely in my generation, Charles Manson was the devil. He was the devil, and he had super mind control over these young, influential, like cheerleaders or something, that he was able to somehow get them to go and kill for, because he was just this psycho who just wanted to kill a lot of people, I guess, apparently. So they sold this whole narrative. They designed who this person was. They created the reality. And they used him as the scapegoat. And I guess so many things, just like, it's so crazy on a soul level that you come and you just want to do good, and that you end up scapegoated as the devil. It's mind boggling. I don't know. I've just got a lot of stuff from this. It is just, it blows my mind. So, Charles Manson was a little tiny person. He was like 5'2", really, really tiny. Like when they found him in the Spawn Ranch, when they went and did all the big arrests, it took the longest, I think, to find him because he was in this tiny little cabinet hiding, but he was this tiny person. He was really small. And so he was hiding in a cabinet. So anyways, there was just a lot of talk about how tiny he was. So he was a tiny person, and he was, he might have been illiterate, but he was definitely uneducated, like no education. I don't know if he could read or write, but he wasn't ever really taught. You have to be taught something to get your brain to go in that direction. That's the whole point, and the whole education system is, manipulating that. But anyways, as long as you're teaching someone, to get that part of their brain going, they can learn. And then it's kind of, people need to go on their journey to see what they want to learn about. And they should want to learn how to take care of themselves. But anyways, so he was, his mom was already disposed of by her family, which was probably not a very cohesive family. He came from a really hard life. His mom was 15 when he was born. He was probably malnourished and stuff. She was an alcoholic, and, there was no structure to his life. She would just have men. I think she would prostitute part of the time in front of him to get by and stuff. But anyway, she ended up going to prison when he was 9, and the uncle too. They had done some kind of crime. I don't know. They were just those kind of grifter, kind of criminal, just commit crime after crime to get by life. And so she ended up going to jail. Well, they had nothing to do with this kid. So they just were like, okay, well, he's going to jail too. And he was 9, and he went in. It wasn't like a juvenile facility, but it was some kind of facility because there was also adults. And there was adults and there was guards. So he would get raped and beaten and tortured by all of these. From the whole time he was 9 years old. His whole childhood, his whole teen years, all of that time. Because he didn't get out of prison until he was like 19 or 20. And he was a really tiny guy too, So he had this certain way of seeing the world. And it was very different than what they had sold us, that he saw it as. It wasn't like that at all. His philosophy on life was very different. And he was very much about, you're living your life, I'm living my life, I'm responsible for me, you're responsible for you. Don't step on my toes, find a place to enjoy life. That was the one rule at the Spawn Ranch you could never break, was you're never allowed to lie. He said you could do whatever you wanted, but if you lied, you'd get kicked off the ranch. And, he just had never had anyone he could trust or take care of him or anything. And when he had first got out of jail, he met this like guru kind of guy who gave him kind of a philosophy that he, put into how he looked at life. And it helped him, to not just feel defeated. I mean, how would you feel? Oh my God, what a life. I mean, Jesus, from 9 years old. There's been so many tragic things throughout the whole thing of humanity. We've seen so many tragic lives. So I'm not saying his is more tragic than others. There's been multiple. But, how much can we expect out of someone who's lived through that? Especially, it wasn't the norm then. Most people were coming from families and stuff. Family was a very strong unit back then. It was something like that was one of the strong paradigms that was being structured was, you have to follow the rules. You have to go to God. You have to, they were setting this very, and that's why the hippies were breaking away, because their parents were so constricting like that. And so there was all sorts of communes that were just everywhere. They were all over the place, and people were all just experimenting with drugs and sex, and they just wanted to break free from this conditioning that they had been experiencing. And they could see, a corporate takeover and, all that stuff back then. So, they just wanted to break free of this system because they could see it was not a good situation. And Charles Manson was just getting out of prison and had spent his whole life there. And he had learned to play guitar, and he was like a soulful, like really, he was a poet. Like he was constantly writing, and some of the stuff that he would say and write, everybody would think he was so crazy. When you find out like what he was really talking about, it's like, oh my God, now it makes sense. Now I get what he was talking about. Before, when they were doing the narrative, no, he seemed like a crazy person. They marketed him as a devil. Even when they all got the swastika here, they weren't doing the Nazi one. They were doing the Hindu one of movement and connection and stuff. He was like really spiritual, and he had this certain way of looking at life and stuff. And he only committed one murder, and the one murder was to save somebody else, because he was going to kill both of them, I guess. But he was definitely going to kill the girl. But this guy wanted to kill a whole bunch of people. And that's what started this whole thing. That should have never become what it was. But there was like this personal drama going on that had, and the Sharon Tate people, they had just moved into that house. And the beef was with the owner. And the owner had just moved out. And but there was whole things, and they were trying to throw the scent off of another murder. But it was all this stupid drug stuff and everything. Like, we should have never even heard about this bullshit. But they sensationalized the fuck out of it. Why? People had to make money. They used so much stuff to direct society. They broke so many judiciary rules and legislation and stuff to bring this narrative, that those people's they shouldn't have been tried in LA, because they had the stuff just everywhere in the newspaper. They were creating a narrative, and these were young people, and they stepped all over their rights. And then they created this whole thing about that they were, they made this whole weird story. Now when I hear the story, it's like, oh my God, how could we ever believe this? Is so ridiculous. But at the time, it was like, oh wow, man, there's people like that. Oh God, man, that's scary. Oh, let's get over here with the normal people. There's creepy, scary people out there, and that defines like not just one generation. Oh my gosh, it's just so crazy. Oh, but then when you put into it, it was all, had to do with the drugs and bikers and all of the crimes that go on in that kind of underbelly of the world. That they all are doing that kind of stuff to each other. And the drugs that were coming into the place. And, Spawn Ranch was also linked to movies. It used to be a place where they would go and do old westerns and stuff. And so you have the link to also does the movies, three-letter agency that was also connecting the KM backward, mirror that, the control. And they were doing testing of LSD and other hallucinogenics on groups of people. So they were doing them on soldiers without them knowing. They were doing them on just anybody. They were trying to figure out how they could control people's minds and what they could do with. There was a lot of things that these creepy people were studying, and probably because of the Nazi influence of the scientists from World War II that they brought back over. But they started, we're a science experiment project the whole fucking time. So, this is nothing, that they test drugs on us. They're doing it currently, right now. We're watching it happen, and people have no awareness. So just think back then, people had absolute no awareness what was going on, and they were testing these drugs. And so then they also have the thing, and with KM Ultra, stuff with the brains, like all of the shootings and stuff that happen all the time, and they go in, and I'm not saying every single one, but there's a lot. You can go in and you can hear the person and the killer talk. They have no idea what happened. They were blank. They don't even think they were there. They just heard noises. They heard a lot of voices in their head. They don't, all this stuff. And who knows how different people get targeted. Like, these people got it because of the connection, I think, with because the 3-letter agency was involved in that whole thing, and they are involved in the testing and the mind control and stuff, and finding, test subjects. So this huge group of people, and who knows how many of them. But Tex, one of the main murderers, he was a main drug dealer, and he was making connections, of course, with these mafia type people. Well, it's a fucking crime syndicate that's running the goddamn world. So, and then, so wherever, he was getting his drugs, that just shows right there, they're getting the drugs from whoever, they'll get the drugs into them and give them away for free. Watch what they do. Then when they lose their minds and go in and start slaughtering people and writing crazy words on the walls, well, what do we do now? Oh, I don't know. What do you think? And then he goes fucking cabin in the woods, man. Because then you start thinking, like, you got the table who are sitting around deciding, okay, let's go with race war. Oh, fuck yeah, race war. We got that one all the time. How about the devil worshiping maniacs? Oh, hell yeah. Devil worshiping maniacs. Oh, check, on board. And then, the crazed hippies. Ooh, that was a big one back then. Crazed hippies. Yes. Got to get rid of those hippies. They're just, we can't have these people want a free world. What? Crazy. It's just like, man, who knows how far back this shit goes. But it's just, man, when you start seeing it in your own, for how long this went on. So Charles Manson, was this totally just this little hippie dude who was just a homeless guy who they tried giving him music contracts too. And he couldn't stay in a place. He just was just like, he's just free as the wind. He just wants to go be free. He's out of his whole fucking life. He's been in jail. All he wants to do is just go out and have sex and do some drugs and just be in the experience. I don't care about anything. And, when he did have to kill that one guy, when he was trying to rescue the poor girl, because Tex's girlfriend's all, kidnapped for the drug deal, then, it wasn't like he was killing some seedy person, like a GF, It wasn't like some upstanding person, which he didn't even kill him. But he got so scared because of the involvement with the Panthers. And then that all led to, okay, well, we got to throw him off our scent. Okay, what do we do? Well, another thing goes wrong because then they have to hire the bikers. The bikers have to come in to protect them so that they'll fight the Panthers. The bikers and Panthers will fight instead of poor Charles' family getting slaughtered. And so, this is like just paranoid drug stuff. And they're all just going like, and then, so then when another person gets killed in this weird thing they've got going with these drugs with the bikers and this other group, then they got to throw them off of the scent of the other one. So then they come up with we're going to write these words because then we'll direct them. Like, I just cannot believe that they turned it all into this narrative. And then the journalists were saying, well, yeah, you couldn't, back then you didn't get access to all the information. The prosecutor, the police or whatever would come out and tell you. And then you would go and tell everybody else. So we didn't know, we're just saying whatever they tell us. And Vincent Bugliosi, he has the best-selling true crime novel of all history, of all time. And he basically made it up and used these people to dispose of, to create this story. And it was easy to, you don't have to admit the government has any, we didn't give them the drugs. We didn't give it. You know, I mean, they've been doing it all over the fucking globe for how we didn't give them the guns, we didn't give them the drugs, we didn't give them the little children. We didn't do any of it. It's like, oh my God. This has been going on for a long ass time, guys. Long ass time. People need to really wake up, like, to what's going on. I mean, Charles Manson may have been a very disposable person, you know. It's very sad, and to get thrown under the bus. We've seen what they've done to Stephen Avery, another person they've seen as a very disposable person. I mean, there's so many people that they will just trash these people just to cover their own asses. Just completely trash people, destroy them. And no wonder that guy was in the fucking jail talking crazy shit and saying, you know, you tell me who I am. You're the one deciding. You decide my future. You tell me what my future is. You know, he's saying all that, and you're thinking, what the fuck is this guy? He's crazy. Oh, now I get what the hell he's talking about, man. Oh my gosh, that's just so crazy. But look up that thing. You may not have the same feelings as me because, like I said, I mean, this was a very traumatic incident in my adolescent time. You know, I was still listening to my mom's music. I hadn't even started listening to my own yet. And I'm finding out about mass murder and hippie rage. And it was all just made up. And they used it to just, I mean, even Quentin Tarantino just did it in his movie. Like, another generation, we've got to get them in there. We've got to keep this devil going. They can just redirect. Man. People need to wake up. You know, you got to find your own empowerment. You got to see through the bullshit. Because it's bullshit. Okay. Well, have a great day. And, you know, stay alert. Stay on top of it. Don't believe bullshit. Because they're lying about everything. Everything.